There's this ages-old debate going on between sailors and powerboaters, because which one is actually best? Well, in this video I'm gonna give you 13 reasons why a sailboat trumps a powerboat, and the last one is probably my favorite, so stick around till the end. But before we do, please consider subscribing down below and hit that notification bell, and like the video if you haven't already. It helps a lot and every subscriber counts. We're putting a lot of effort into this channel and we want to grow it to a major sailing channel with good information by real sailors for real sailors. So make sure to subscribe. So there's actually a short and a long answer, and before I dive into the 13 reasons, which is the long answer, I want to give a concise and precise answer as to why sailing is better than a powerboat. It goes a little something like this. A sailboat is quiet and clean, whereas a powerboat is not. Sailboats are also much cheaper than powerboats second hand, and they're a lot more safe and more reliable as well. Sailboats are also more challenging and more exciting than powerboats. Sure enough, powerboats are better at getting somewhere someplace fast, but it will cost you. So let's dive into the 13 reasons why I think sailboats trump powerboats each and every time. Jump in. Reason number 1, and this is maybe the major single most important reason why a sailboat trumps a powerboat, and that's it's quiet. So, when you are on a sailing trip, it sounds something like this. And when you go out on your powerboat, it sounds a little something like this. Now, some people don't mind, and I respect that, but it's not for me. I'd much rather prefer the sailing sound of the birds and the waves and the wind than the 80 decibel noise which comes out of a powerboat motor. And mind you, 80 decibels is about the same volume as your alarm clock right beside your head. No snooze button. Alright, number 2 is sailboats are clean. They are green, they are mean machines. They are a lot cleaner than powerboats. Powerboats use a lot of gas. They are notoriously polluting and also smelly. If you like the smell of gasoline, that's fine, and just enjoy it, and you'll also find it on a sailboat sometimes when you motor along, but I much rather prefer the scent of the salty ocean in my lungs instead. Number 3 ties in perfectly. Sailing is super cheap. Once you get the boat, you don't have to put a lot of gas into it, and a powerboat, well, they use a lot. Powerboat owners out there, you know who you are. It uses a lot of gas, right? Am I right? Let's do a little math example, just for fun, just for kicks. Let's say you want to cross from San Diego to Hawaii. That is about 2,600 nautical miles. And let's say you cruise at an average of 25 knots in your powerboat, which is very fast. And it will take you roughly 100 hours to get there, and fuel consumption will be around roughly 5 gallons an hour. So that's 500 gallons in total, which means like $2,000, more than $2,000. My God, that's cheap. Oh. And you have to go 2 ways, right? So you get to go back as well. So once you get back and you fill her up again, your total costs are about $5,000 for a trip to Hawaii. Whereas with the sailboat, it wouldn't have cost you a dime. Number 4 will get me into trouble for saying it. Sailboats are actually cheaper to buy. And I've been around and I've checked hundreds and thousands of sailboat prices across multiple sites over the last few months, and I found that you can get a decent sailboat, second-hand sailboat, for as little as $1,500. And this seems pretty insane, which it is. You have to get really lucky and really have to know what you're looking for, but there's not even a chance with powerboats. The same size powerboat, about 22 foot, will cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 at the minimum. You're not gonna find one for less than that. Sailboats are in excess, so there are a lot of them available on the internet if you know where to look for them. Number 5. Sailboats have right-of-way. That is when you are on the sail, not when you're motoring. Rookies out there. When you come across a motorboat and you are under sail as a sailboat, you always have right-of-way, which is pretty cool, right? There are some exceptions. Very large vessels, you have to give them right-of-way. Don't make the rookie mistake of thinking you can overtake a cruise ship or something like that. You'll have to get out of the way. Large motor vessels, over 65 feet in narrow channels. Whenever motor vessels are in trouble, you give them right-of-way. If a sailboat is overtaking the motor vessel, the latter has right-of-way. So keep those in mind. Other than that, you are the man or woman. Sailboats are actually saver, and a lot of people are surprised by this, but motorboats, powerboats, have flat bottom hulls. Planing hulls is the technical term, which means they almost fly on top of the waterline. Sailboats, on the other hand, have a much deeper draft and a keel most of the time, so some kind of daggerboard or centerboard, which means they will not capsize. They can heal a lot before even getting into any kind of trouble, and they will never ever flip over because of the wind. And there's a lot of videos out there on the YouTubes where people flip over, do a backflip salto turnaround because the wind catches them when they go way too fast and are way too much out of the water. Besides being safer, sailboats are also more reliable. And a lot, that is. Generally, you could always use your sails to get out of wherever you are, that is, if there is a wind. The motors on sailboats are generally smaller, they are under less strain than the much larger, much more hefty outboard motors of powerboats. So that means that sailboat marine engines generally last a lot longer. If you happen to find yourself this master, then well, hooray. That's not very common. You're a special kind of lad. My next point is, I think this is one of the most important points. Sailing is much more exciting than powerboating. It is true I have sailed a powerboat with a Ford V8 in it, going about 40 miles an hour on open water, and it's a great feeling for about 3 minutes, and then you get the point and the kick kind of gets out of it and the thrill is gone, and then you're just left with a lot of noise, going very fast, nowhere in particular also. With a sailboat, on the other hand, each day is different. You have to anticipate the weather, and it's very, very much fun and very, very adventurous as well. So that's why I prefer the sailboat. Number 9 is very impressive, and that's sailors work with nature. Powerboaters work against nature, in a sense, because the engine is also, well, it's man-made, but man is nature, right? So in a way, it's natural laws. But the sailor, I would say sails are the superior technology here, and this might get me into trouble. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Instead of going just that way, just rotating, spinning the wheel and going that way, the sailor needs to really work with the wind, in collaboration with the wind, which for me is superior in many ways. It's an art instead of just a day out on the water, and maybe it's not as technologically advanced as the powerboat, but I say it's in a way far superior in that it is man dancing with nature. And if we're honest, the powerboat doesn't really want to go. It's your Monday morning. You need to pour in a lot of caffeine, and maybe it will go this way or that way, but it will always stutter and stumble, and if it's out of caffeine, it will probably just lay there. Sounds familiar? For me it does. Number 10 is self-improvement. Or that's my opinion, at least. I think with sailing, you improve yourself by mastering difficult, heavy weather conditions, finding yourself in rough seas and then finding a way out of it. It makes you more than you were before. When you powerboat, you become a powerboater. When you sail, well, you become a seaman. Number 11. You get to go more places. There are a lot of places on Earth which are protected, where you can't motor. Powerboats are not allowed certain islands and Pacific areas, for example. The island of Madeira is one, I guess. And you just can't get there by powerboat, but you can on your sailboat. And also, you can go out in rougher waters if your sailboat is blue water equipped. You're equipped for cruising and weathering heavy weather storms. So you can sail in more weather conditions, and you can go out on the ocean. With a powerboat, you won't be very excited with 12 knots of wind gusts or open seas and high waves because, again, of the planing hull. If you have a keel, if you have a deep draft, you're much more stable and you're much less likely to get caught on by waves and tipped over. So with the powerboat, it's off limits for you, the sailor. Hooray again. So one of the things that gets increasingly popular nowadays is living on your sailboat. Just like van life, we get live aboard sailboats now. Lots of people live in marinas permanently on their boat or cruising around. Actually, 2 of our writers live on their sailboat and cruise around most of the time. And it allows you to do all kinds of cool stuff. So you can probably save some money doing it. Although I wouldn't recommend laying in a Miami harbor, a Florida harbor, or a San Diego harbor for that matter. It can allow you to save some money and you can travel cheaply and see some of the world. My favorite, the smallest sailboat ever to sail around the world was 21 feet. 21 feet. So it's not as if powerboats are just worse for ocean or not made for oceans. Sailboats actually are made for oceans, and you can get ridiculously small sailboats and circumnavigate the world. No problem. You have to be a very well-trained sailor, of course, but it can be done. And that's my last point. You can cross an ocean in almost any sailboat. If you are properly prepared, well-trained, well-equipped, and you get a good sailboat, you can cross the Atlantic in a very small sailboat. And it can be done, it has been done. Powerboats, not so much. If there's a bit of rough sea, you're done, you're over. With a sailboat, yeah, I imagine it won't be fun, but you'll be fine. There are a couple of disadvantages of sailboats as well, and I just thought it would be fair to mention a couple of them. So, as mentioned, sailboats have a deeper draft, which means you can go more places in one way, but on the other hand, you can go less places, because Giethoorn, where I live, here's a picture, you can't go there with a very deep-keeled sailboat. You can't do it. It's way too shallow. And there are many places on Earth where a powerboat trumps a sailboat. Mostly inland waters, very shallow coastal areas. Also, somewhere like the Bahamas can be quite troublesome in a very deep draft sailboat. That's why catamarans are very popular there. Sailboats are also quite expensive to maintain. The rigging, the sails, replacing some of those items is very expensive, in the thousands of dollars. And that's not to say that powerboats don't need maintenance. Of course they do, but it can be very expensive if you get unlucky or are very far behind on your maintenance on your sailboat. You can't wakeboard behind a sailboat. You can't tow other vessels. You are always busy. So don't go out sailing thinking you can relax and take in the nature. You're sailing. That's what you're doing. You're sailing. So when is a powerboat better than a sailboat? Not in a lot of cases, but perhaps the most common ones are if you plan on fishing a lot, going on fishing trips. If you want to do family day trips, go to islands, go and see beaches. If you're a coast guard, definitely get a powerboat and not a sailboat, please. If you want to do water sports. In every other scenario, I personally prefer the sailboat. So there you have it. Those are my 13 reasons why sailboats are better than powerboats. If you disagree with me or have some other reasons I haven't mentioned, please leave them in the comments below. I really want to find out what you guys and girls think about the subject. If you have experience with a powerboat, for example, please let me know what is so great about a powerboat, because I don't actually understand and I'm trying to here. All kidding aside, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming, and as always, smooth sailing.